Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with a creator request, which is where a smaller artist gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their work. I got an email from Indian metal band Fallen Letters letting me know that their album came out just a couple of weeks ago. It's called Mind Fractures. And we're going to check out the opening track on it called A Fractured Monologue. Let's dive in and see what Fallen Letters is bringing to the table today. Very dark. The piano's a nice touch. Still very dark and oppressive, but much larger now. Oh, dude. The tone of those toms. Sick. So maybe some foreshadowing. Maybe we'll return back to those highs, but for now, reintroduce the vibes of the intro and presumably build from here. Very groovy with the syncopated hits on the guitars and drums. Beautiful sweep picking right there. I like the percussion on this part too. very cool to drive so much energy under that guitar solo with the toms on the drums. Great way of using that expanded drum fill to pull into the rhythm that the bass kicks would be on right here. Some interesting textures with synthesizers, possibly. Maybe those are guitars.
At a certain time, it's instrumental in what I would say crystallizing and making into something which is almost like a separate entity.
And I assume that goes into the next track then. Yeah, dude, great track right there. And quite a bit different than I expect from Fallen Letters. We've had them on the channel a couple of times in the past. And this is way more progressive than I would expect from them. It's very cool to see this group growing and expanding and finding their voice with each new release. This track does a phenomenal job of being eerie and aggressive and even oppressive in some parts of the track, and finding when the song needs to switch between those three modes and finding fluid ways to move between them. Frequently, we will have a rising of layers or a fade, crossfading between two ideas. And I think that's a nice way of taking a more aggressive approach to transitions while still having a bit of fluid movement between ideas. And it's a nice middle point there. Now the song, I think, kicks off really nicely, coming in with a very dark, moody guitar with some piano alongside it, and then building that into this big metal section, foreshadowing where we would be later, and then bringing it down so that we can kick into our lighter verse. I thought this worked really well at basically giving us a little bit of a roller coaster ride here, while also giving us a taste of where the song will be eventually. From here, we build the song up. Again, we get into a pretty driving chorus, do a verse and a chorus again, and then there's this really meaty bridge that comes in, and we get some harsh vocals, we get some super groovy, heavy guitar work, and it's just very driving, very momentous, very heavy, aggressive, and large. And from here, we kind of go through a linear passage of ideas that give us lighter, moodier, spookier sections and more aggressive, heavier moments, and all of it kind of tied together with a couple of guitar solos that I quite enjoyed. I thought the melody writing on them was fantastic. And then the drums, which help push all of this, help push the listener through all of this. I think the drums did a fantastic job of keeping the song moving forward. And it's not just the drums either. The bass did a great job of this too. In fact, there was one transition that was just the bass. So I really like putting a little bit of spotlight on the bass guitar in places. And the song wraps up, comes to a nice point at the end. And like I mentioned, presumably moves into the next track. I'd say that overall, it has some nice laying down of ideas, coming back to them later, a little bit of, theme and variation, but even callback going on in here. Good pacing, great highs and lows, just a generally enjoyable track to listen to from start to finish if you're in the mood for eerier, moodier, darker, and heavier music. Now, I think the drums are the instrument that consistently surprised me in here. I think they're the most versatile. We have more functional drum work in here. We have some very cool drum fills. We have some expressive drum patterns. And honestly, a lot of the transitions were carried on by the drums. Starting, increasing the intensity to go to a point, or reducing intensity, introducing a new tempo. There were a couple of very slight tempo shifts in here, introducing a new rhythmic idea. I mean, even that extended drum fill at the end of the track that introduced the 16th notes that the bass kick would begin playing at the start of the next phrase. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just works so well on this track. And the drum fill by itself was impressive too. We had those, I thought they were toms at the beginning, but as we got further through the track and I heard more of the toms, I don't think they were. And I'm kind of curious what percussive instruments they were, but it sounded like a drum fill within the first, 2 minutes of the track or something. Very high pitched drums though. I thought they sounded great. I kind of wish the whole song had them, but I understand that the more metallic sections kind of need more of the traditional bassy tom sounds. But I thought that was a great way to kick the track off, and I'm really interested about what that instrument is. And there was even some drums or percussive instruments that I didn't recognize in the middle of the track. They were kind of pushed out to the side. We got them for one section, like 16 bars tops, and then we went back to the kit. I don't know what they were, but I really like that timbre shift there too. So a lot of the percussive elements I think work well in here, and they help, again, with the flow and fluidity of this track, moving between more rigid rhythms and more syncopated, groovy ideas. And I thought that worked really well too. Now, the levels of aggression on this track, as I had mentioned earlier, not really what I would expect from Fallen Letters. Maybe it's just that I've heard the wrong songs from them, but the heights that we get to in this song, as far as aggression and pure riffage and even harsh vocals, even intense drum work, just not what I usually expect from them. And I found that I was pleasantly surprised by these moments, but that they also fit really well. Not just that they were performing them well, or that the structure of the song worked well to have them there, but also that they pulled them off in a way that felt natural. It really surprised me. And Fallen Letters, they're not a group I would normally put into the realms of darker, moodier, progressive metal groups, but in this song right here, I kind of see fans of Katatonia coming to this. And again, it's not a band I would normally have in the conversations for them. So again, it's very cool to see this group grow and evolve and expand their sound out to these different ideas and displays of skill. Even when we look at the guitar solos, I'm pretty sure we've had guitar solos in Fallen Letters before. Might have to look back on their last EP. I'm pretty sure there are some solos on that though. But the solos here were great. There was some very clean sweep picking that gave us some very cool arpeggiations. I thought that the riffs themselves were rather good at narrative driving, telling a story using the melody. And generally, they kept the pace moving forward, not necessarily staying in a specific point, but definitely having growth and expansion and, more important, directionality to them, so that they aren't just a guitar solo. Some bands, some songs, it feels like, well, metal songs have solos, so we put one in here, and they just kind of feel functional. But here it actually feels like it's pushing the song to the next idea. And so they feel more integral to the overall composition and story that's trying to be told through the music. So the bass works solid, drum works excellent, guitar works excellent, vocals are quite varied, the song has great pacing, and it's an unexpected sound from the band. I'm rather excited about diving into the rest of this album. Before I can do that though, I need to wrap this video up. Let's hit some lyrics on this track and see what's going on there. Now, I don't have an incredibly strong understanding of the lyrics here, but I do believe it's about battling inner demons, possibly. The final stanza says, "In the beginning, it fuels this kind of thought process." And then there's a certain time it's instrumental in crystallizing it, making it into something which is almost like a separate entity. A lot of what goes on prior to this final stanza seems to take place in the mind. It focuses on loss, desire, fear, crumbling or eroding sanity, and a feeling of wanting to escape a general concept of misery. There's also a continued element of looking down, which I find really interesting. The second stanza says, "Wait, I'm looking down and you're trying to abstain, awakened by your fear." A couple stanzas later says, "I look down low into my hate." A stanza later, "In disgrace, I look down at my fate." There's always this concept of seeing things below oneself, which I think is an interesting concept for this track. There is a stanza that is repeated, though. It says, "Stay, atone for all of your vile stories in my mind. I crave for your loss, to let go of all desire." So we have an antagonistic relationship between two things, people, possibly. I still think that the final stanza implies that there is a duality within oneself, but being that it is the final stanza, maybe that's more of a foreshadowing for other tracks, more so than something to describe what's going on in this one. But like I mentioned, there is a general antagonistic element going on here. At one point, though, it says that I walk the edge of my control and I feel the bliss of everything that I need to rise from my misery. And I think this is interesting. Being on the edge of something usually indicates that you're about to cross a threshold. And he says that he can feel what he needs to get out of his misery. He doesn't take the leap, though. It must, at least from my perspective, indicate that whatever this line that is being drawn in the sand is, it might be a step too far for our protagonist. But there is another feeling here. It says, "I've been the one that you need. Everywhere I feel your rise in my misery." And I think this is interesting because it's not just an antagonistic relationship here then, but maybe a dependent one as well. But honestly, that's about as far as my understanding of this track goes. There's definitely a loss of control, a want to gain control, to pull oneself up out of the muck, to find something worth living for in life, to get out of a misery, but possibly something else that pulls them down, keeps them there, and maybe even enjoys seeing them in that position. I think the general antagonistic oppressive and dreary energy in the song is matched really well with the little bit that I get out of the lyrics here. But these are just my thoughts on A Fractured Monologue by Fallen Letters. What did you get out of this song? Is there anything that you enjoyed? Anything you'd like to expand on upon what I said? Or maybe you have something totally different that you want to bring up? Do you have a different take, perspective, or opinion on this song and its meanings? Let me know. Put all of that and anything else you'd like to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. There's also a link to Fallen Letters, streaming platforms, and social media. If you'd like to dive more into this album or find them on their social media or what have you, whatever you're interested in, I'll see what I can do to get as many links in the description as I can. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.